All right, hello, hello, hello. How's it going? Back in the workshop here. Go ahead and work on some builds. Got a list of things to do. I want to work on low loader so we can get some mining equipment moving around. Stationary miner, crab boat maybe. See how much time I actually end up having. But let's look at the beam trailer real quick. So I have a bunch of low loaders. These are the beam trailers. And the way these work is they go underneath the vehicle so it doesn't have to drive up on top. That's one way I can do it. The other one is put it on an actual low loader. So these beam trailers have this neck here. This neck works really well. It connects with all the tires and everything else. I'm trying to set it up here so that I can use one of my low loaders. So these are the low loaders. These have a different neck, so I would update the neck here on those. And I gotta see if this has TTIS. TTIS is my tractor trailer integration system. I don't think it does. I think the beams do. Have TTIS on them, so let's see. That's winches, connectors. There's TTIS. Alright, so TTIS is on this. What I could do that would be easier is just put the flatbed on this. I think that's what I'll do. So let's do that. Let's first try to put the loader I'm trying to get on there. Because ideally it sits on top, but you see how wide it is? The tires are the problem. The beam is too... Is it the beam too wide? I think the beam is too wide by 1 on this particular trailer. So I could do it as a beam trailer as well, and narrow it up, so that's another option. So let's play with that first. Alright, so let's try doing that. So I have the space. Do I have the space to do it? I should be able to. Move the beam in. Yeah, that's the hard point that needs to connect. And then let's see how big this is. And we'll make because I want to make this a little bit smaller. So pretty much, I think about there. Be about as close as we can get. So probably chop off to the front of here. All right. Alright, that's good. Alright, and then we gotta get a measure on this for length, because I name them up based on the length, so I can easily figure out what they are. That is 19 meters, so let's see. Meter feet. So 62. Say 63. Oh, stop. LL 63, alright. Low loader, beam trailer, 63. Alright, good. Do a quick little test on this. Make sure this sits properly on here. That's not a good sign. It's not a good start there. That's likely because the bucket's sitting down, so I gotta see if I can actually get this on there. So it's sliding these tracks here, but I have to probably drive it on, and then I need a tractor as well. So let's do this for now. What did I call it? Stop, buddy. Let's see. Shit. Did not mean that to connect there. That's not supposed to connect to the pintle. That fucked all that up. Alright. Alright, this is a mess here. Alright, that's better. Gotta check this. Should have T-test, but doesn't necessarily. It doesn't have the version with actual air brakes. So Yeah, it doesn't have the air brakes, so it's not releasing the brakes, which is fine, because again, I don't need to do the full test. What's coming down there? All right. Shit and shit and shit. That's not what I wanted to do. Trying not to tip this fucking thing over. Alright, the beam's just gonna be too narrow for this one. Alright, so let's just go with a low loader. Oh my god. Just paste the fucking thing. Alright. Alright, cut that. Okay. Of course, I missed the color block too. That sucks. Alright, let's fix that. And I gotta work on fixing up the T-test system so that it works with air brakes on the trailer as well. But main thing is I gotta make sure the loader is actually gonna work on this. So that's the most important thing. Let's get a measurement on the size of this trailer. Stop. Screw yourself. There we go. 17 and a quarter. All right. 56. We'll say 57. All right, that's good. Let's just put the loader on top. All right, so that fits pretty well. I gotta put the brakes on here. All right, and then we want to raise the bucket up before this has problems. Okay, there's that. All right, so that fits pretty well. We could shorten this up even more to make it a 53. Let's do that. 53 standard length for a US, so 16, 15-ish. But I think that will work for us. So let's see what our current meterage is. All right, come on, measure, you scoundrel. 17.25. We need to go down before about 4 blocks. So 1, 2. So that has to stay pretty much. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Take out these here, I think, and that will about do it. I gotta keep some of this though. It's 16.5. That's close enough to call it a 53. All right, good. That's good. I need to work on. So I made it so that my new trailers, they use air pressure for the brakes. My old trailers don't do that, so I'm trying to see what I can do to fix that up. So here's the T-TIS Mark II complete. All right, so essentially what this is doing, I'll show you what it's doing. So here in the tractor, right, the way it works IRL, I used to drive tractor trailer for 14 years, so the you have an air pump off your engine, and that's pumping air into cylinders. And so the air comes in through here, and it goes into this tank, and we can pump air into the reservoir tank, and that's going to fill the tank with pressurized air. Then you have a valve, and this valve is going to allow high pressure air to go from here into this tank. Now this tank is the brake can. So this is simulating a can on the truck that when you put the air pressure into there, it's going to apply the brakes. All right. And then when you take your foot off the pedal, what it does is it opens up a valve and it lets that air vent out. So this valve opens, meters it out, and lets the air go out. So that's the new standard for my trucks, and that's why this is here, so you can add all the stuff. Back in the trailer, you plug in the air, and it goes in, and here's your reservoir tank. Same thing, reservoir tank. Then it goes through, and it has a metering valve, and it goes into the brake can. That's brake can. And then it, again, when you let off the pedal, it's going to let the air out. And so the air pressure will decrease in here as it fills this tank to apply the brakes. The engine will keep pumping air in there. To refill that, when you let off, this will let out the air and apply the brakes. So that's what it's doing. So the issue here, too, is this is a mess. What I should do now is, do I want to add this all in right now? Probably not. Let's not screw with this right now because that one, just because of the design of the trailer, it's easy on other trailers to quickly add all those components in. This one's going to be tricky with the gooseneck, so I don't want to screw with that right this second, actually. But I've got that so I can use it. Let's switch gears real quick. I want to make some progress because I'd like to get some career gameplay in more reliably, and I need to fix some builds up for that. But we made progress on getting a we made some progress on getting some that trailer so that we can move stuff around. All right, so here's the CGBC, which I never actually finished for Alistair's challenge. It was a crabbing boat. And so it works pretty well. It's very basic in there right now, but I like to be able to use this in my career game. What's it cost? 27. Let's see what the big crab boat costs. Uh, 141. So quite a bit more this crab boat. Because that's something we can use to go make some money. Trying to think of some ways to make some money in career. So let's work on this. So this was the one I was going to make for Alistair's challenge that I ended up never finishing. So let's see. I had some pictures of this boat I want to find. So let's put some color on it. That'll help get me a little bit more motivated to finish it up. So let's see. Want a little bit of a cream color on there instead of white. Yeah, that's probably better. I just ran out of time. Oh, Christ on a cracker. It's not symmetried. I just ran out of time to finish this for Alistair's challenge. It would have been nice to get it done, but... try to just work on some builds so that we have some stuff to be able to go do some stuff in career. I don't like using that bucket too much because the plane fills, so it fills the whole plane. Then you find later you painted stuff you didn't intend to paint. That's why I kind of... like, if I did this, it would paint all under here where I don't want it, so... once I kind of mask it off like this, I can do it, and it won't cause problems. got a lot of builds going on now, so I'm trying to make some solid progress on getting them kind of going so that I can use them in career. So I was gonna just jump on career, but I'm like, I need a bunch of stuff, so this helps with that. All right, so that's that. I'm trying to. usually like to do an anti-fouling paint color down here. That is not it. I'll tell you that. That's for my trains. It's this one here. This one. I think it's this one. I'm not sure if it even is. It doesn't look right, but see how it looks when it gets in the world. They use a copper infused paint so that to try to keep barnacles from getting on there. I might switch this out for a different color. We'll see. Might go dark on that because it's dark on the real one too, so I might just do that. Yeah, but that. Oh, how's it going, Rasmus? Good to see you. Gonna flip my laundries. Yeah, but that helps giving it a little bit of color. And again, we're just trying to make some progress with some of these builds so that hopefully I don't spend too much time screwing around with in the career build series doing too much building. If you'd like to kind of see building, you can see it in this series, and then for a career build series, it's going to be more just doing the career game. I keep getting distracted with building and when I start a career game because I need so many builds in the career build series. All right, good. So this would be a good way to have some passive income. We can go drop this off as we go do something else. Drop some pots. So just trying to make progress on everything. I don't need anything finished. I don't think anything is ever finished, frankly. But a little bit of progress is helpful. And this boat, I think, is fully functional. It doesn't look great at the moment, but it's fully functional, so that's good. So we can go out and dump some pots if we wanted to. So I'll save this. Just try to make a little bit forward progress. Alright, that's good. Alright, so I wrote down low loader, stationary miner, and the crab boat. Will what be multiplayer career? No, I'm talking about my career build series. I'd like to do some multiplayer career, but I got to do some more organization on that to do that. But I'm just talking about regular career game. This is my new crab boat. So, all right, so that's good. And then I started working on a stationary miner last night. I'm not really happy with it, but I think we should be able to get some mining done in the career game with that. Want to work on the start working on Lua panel for this because this is currently a mess. But I don't know if I want to work on that. Kind of back and forth on what I want to do here. If I can get some good progress going here on some of these builds, which I'm doing, I might just switch right over and drop this stream, boot up the career, and then start playing some career. But trying to keep it kind of balanced between building and career here. But this seaplane's working pretty well to be able to get us going. Started working on the stationary miner last night, trying to get something kind of going so that I don't have to operate the entire time. But, you know, some of these, this will take a long time to get some of these builds going, so I gotta kind of... I'd say the best thing to use is do the mining harvester semi, if that's what I'm gonna do. So the other thing I can work on here, we gotta switch bases for it, but because you know, like anybody else, I get in this bad habit of like starting new builds. I'm like, oh, I'll just start a whole new build. Like, oh, that won't take long, and it takes forever. So this is the big loader that I was working on. And you can kind of see the scale of this. It uses the same systems that the smaller loader uses. It has more drills in here. It drills really fast. This is good for open pit mining. This should fit down in the coal mine. It definitely fits in the open pit coal mine. Put a couple more details on this so this gets some progress. I'm trying to remember what the number was on this. Let's see. 992K, so that's the model number, so I can bring that up. And then I can get some pictures so I can kind of work with it and look at the pictures of it. So we'll try to get a little bit of window dressing on this. I'm kind of looking at the fenders. This one's an interesting design because it's single boom. I like that on that. It's got a mud flap I can put on there at some point. Alright, so that's good. We got that kind of in. Work on some of this bucket mechanism again. Like I said, I'm just trying to make some progress so that ends up looking a little bit better. Do I have, let's see. Let's see if I have pistons that are oversized. I know I have them on some builds, but there's a 3x3 piston. There we go. See if the geometry is going to work on these pistons. Alright, let's see if those pistons work for us. Okay, I didn't set them to 0 strength. I don't know why I didn't do that in the editor, but I didn't, so that's fine. There we go. Alright. Alright, good. So those pistons are working well. Those look good. The bucket piston's going to be a little bit more work, as it always is, but those pistons are in. That's good. Alright. Yeah, that's usually how I go through it. Is I'll do a proof of concept, make sure that it's even going to work, because there's nothing more frustrating than you get out there and it's just not going to work. Period. So having a good proof of concept phase where you're like, okay, this will work or this won't work, so you know not to waste your time if it's just not going to work. You know. quite the mechanism on the front for bucket tilt here, so. This is problematic because this needs to be much longer, but I just gotta get, like I said, I gotta get the proof of concept working that this is gonna work, period. Okay. Symmetry, you sucker. Alright, Alright, let's see if that hooks up. This is already down. Alright. Alright, that grabs alright, so that's good. Start it up. I've got it so that the hydraulics won't work unless you turn the power on, which makes sense. So that's going to have problems on that one. That was the one I was figuring was going to have issues. We can do some things to so the longer the swing, so like here, let's put this in. I'll show you the geometry. So there's a bunch of ways you can fix this. So like if we go ahead and we look at it here, essentially the taller this section is here, right? You draw in an arc, and the arc will go from all the way out, all the way in. So the arc is going to look something like that. And so the longer the arc, of course, you need the piston to go out further. Well, if you drop this down, right, the arc length shortens. And if the arc length shortens, the piston can be shorter, right? So that's one thing we can do is drop this down. That will help with the arc length. The problem is when the bucket goes back, it's trying to push and compress this. So we got to push this part here forward. So we need to go down and forward, essentially. So down and forward like that. So let's work that. So kind of understanding the geometry and playing with this for a little while helps. And by going down, we don't need to go forward that much because what we're also doing is we're also making the piston come out more. So we don't actually have to go forward all that much right now. So we're going to cut this and we'll go down, like let's say there maybe. So this can be kind of frustrating, just the geometry of this, until you've done it a couple times and you start to kind of see how it has to behave. That really helps. All right, these not joined. Okay, that's not joined. That's joined. Joining those together is just mostly to cut down the number of sub-bodies. All right, good. So that still attaches. Now, it would be easier, of course, if we could use the rope logic to draw out where our pistons start, but we can't do that, so. All right, so as you see, as it goes up, it's going to compress the piston, so we do need to account for that. So as you see, it's trying to crush the piston as we go to full length, so we still need more extension. And then that, as you see, needs more. So what we need is we need to drop it down more and probably actually, yeah, you can see how you can see kind of that's where our range is. And you see how it's doing a phantom force? It's turning it when I have pressure on it. We explained that yesterday, all right? People think, oh, game, buggy, glitch, whatever, whatever. It's kind of nonsense. What's going on here is you're asking it to go beyond its range. It doesn't know what to do. It's imparting a force on it. And so what you need to do is solve your design issue. So like right there, we don't have enough reach. And it crushes it. So we need it to come out more on initial spawn in. I don't know how much more reach we have. That's the problem. One thing we can do too is we can take the piston, we can cut it, and we can move it forward and down. Let's try that. That's gonna not help us with the fact we need it extended more when we start, but I can play with this here. All right, so we want to go 1, 2, down to probably there. A lot of this is just trial and error, see how where it's binding, and then you have to think of it in all 3 dimensions, so it's kind of, can be a pain to do this. All right, so you see that block needs to come out one more. Might have issues with that, but you know, we're working on it. So it's gonna come up, and now you know, it's getting to the point now where when we go full up, that top piston should be fully compressed, and it is. And then that gives us more range for the tilt. But what we need to do is our connection point still needs to come down more. All right. So this needs to go up on that. There. So that's getting more to where we need to be. Because I need to be able to dump that out that much, so. So move it, like, if we look at it in this position, right, we need the piston to go up and forward. So this effectively goes up and forward by moving this whole assembly here, but we got to make sure it doesn't hit when the arm goes up, which I don't think it will. And the problem is we have to worry about compression, right, when it comes back towards us. So we need to move this again. Actually, let's not do that. Let's do this. Let's try to move this down a little bit. Now, of course, IRL, you can change piston lengths and everything else, and they have formulas for all that, but we can't do that in game. Can't change my starting piston lengths, and then XMLing, I don't really get much more range, so. Could try doing a 4x piston. I haven't tried that yet. We can try that as well. I gotta go knock those into position. Need that to connect here. There we go. All right. So like I said, you know, we're dropping by dropping the angle down, we reduce the circle that this has to turn. So now it's definitely going to compress too much. But we have better extension there, so. So we want to make these arms here longer, and so part of the way we can do that is move the pistons up. Because essentially, like, this isn't starting the same way it would IRL. It needs to angle a little bit more. So we want the smallest circle possible by this section, and then these need to be longer. So. I think it was there, right? Yeah, right there. Yeah, but we're trying to solve for two problems, that it's crushing the piston when we bring the arms up. We can account for that a little bit, that will automatically make the bucket tip, which they actually do IRL. They have, usually it's like just a bar that does that. I think it would be great if we could do pistons with rope technology kind of in-game, where you pre-select them and they just kind of, because the main thing is I don't need pistons ever to do the power, because the pivots are so strong and they're the best way to do it. They're the most configurable. I need pistons for visuals, and so it'd be great if they made it with rope logic, kind of like how they've done some of this other stuff. And it wouldn't surprise me if they eventually go to something like that, because we've been getting a lot of things like flexible ammo belts, flexible duct belts, and they could do kind of like a flexible piston belt where you draw a rope connection from one side to the other, and the piston is just visual, and it looks like the piston's there. It's not doing any work, which I don't need it to do any work. And then because it's rope driven, I don't need all these pivots and everything else for bearings and all that jazz. So probably need the pivot point of that. Yeah, see, that's because what it's doing here is it's pulling on the bottom So I need to move the pivot point again. We're not going to work on this too long. How's it going, Zachy? Good to see you. Yeah, this here would need to move forward again. This pivot point here. We won't work on this too long. I'm just trying to make a little bit of progress on all of my builds here that I kind of want to play with in career. So that when I play career, I don't have to dedicate a ton of time in career to actually building anything. Stuff's built. Yeah, and then like we have to do things like make sure they're in the right orientation, so when we spawn it, they grab. And a lot of that would be eliminated by putting in the ability to do, you know, just those rope connection pistons. Like that's gonna bind like a mother right there. So I can see if I can get a longer piston going here too. These are by 3s. Let's play with see if I can make a longer piston. But that's good progress. That's all I really was looking for, is I need some progress here. Alright, let's go ahead and load up piston. Alright, here's a 3x3 piston. Let's save it as... Alright, so if we look at the code here, we got 2 by 1 by 2. So one of these should be... Make sure that's right. Yeah, that should be where it is. Let's try 3 there. We'll play with it until we kind of get it somewhere we want. Alright, so that's in that dimension. Got to do even. Actually, that's fine. I think it's this one that I need to work on here. Let's try that. Okay, that's the rod. So the last element is the rod length there. So, and I think it doesn't differentiate between the sleeve. It's weird that the collar is not moving as well. Like I can make the sleeve, I can make the piston itself, but the piston housing I can't change, which is weird. Like I can change that, but yeah, let's try something. Yeah, those should be all the components, the ones that are filled in. I'm trying to think. Because, yeah, it should be this middle component here, but it changes the cylinder length, the piston length, but it doesn't change the actual cylinder. Okay, that's not what we want. Okay. So yeah, you see how it's not changing the black part. That's what I need, but it's not changing the black part. Hmm. Yeah, hydraulic pistons and motors would be cool. The problem is the plumbing would be a nightmare. You'd have to do invisible plumbing. You couldn't do pipe connections. It'd be too much of a nuisance. Hmm. I'm curious how this sucker even performs. Like, where's the connection point? Is the connection point still in the back there? Because that's ideally what you would want is a longer piston. But like, where's the connection point? It's got to be still there. So that, like, yeah, it's obnoxious. You can only do so much with XML. All right. Let's see. See if there's anything else I want to work on. Take a break on this one. Might just finish up. I think that's what I'm going to do. Kind of running out of steam here. So I think we'll just finish up there. It was good to get some work done on some of the builds. Be busy the rest of the next 2 days, and then I go to work 4 days. So probably won't get to the career game at all. But yeah, it was good to get some of these builds going. I'd like to get more into career, but I needed to get a lot of these builds kind of moving before we could do that. So thank you guys for watching. Good to see everybody. Rasmus Zaki, hello. Good to see you. If you're new and you enjoyed the video, could give it a like. Or if you liked the video, give it a like. If you're new and you enjoyed, subscribe. And I'll see you guys next one. Thanks for joining us, guys. Bye.